what the game is. He's not going to be fooled. So he says, do you dream often? Yes, do you? Bang! And so the doctor goes, yes. What was your dream about? Oh, sorry. Do you have a story? Yes, do you? Anyway, the point of the story is, and I'm not going to go on with this too long, but the point of the story is that this is a bit like choral repetition. But it's much more profound than that in a way, because it's about saying things correctly, but it's saying things with meaning. It's about pronunciation. It's about stress and things like that. And you can work with the whole class, just as I'm doing with you, and actually going through it line by line. And if you choose the right extract and it's interesting enough, and my contention is, based on the feeling in this room, that is interesting enough as an excerpt for this group, might not be interesting for a bunch of teenagers, that's another story. But if you can keep their attention long enough working like this, so that when I now put you in pairs to rehearse, and I go round the class, you're not just going to be practicing a dialogue. You're going to be trying to say it right. And then, and this is something which is a bit scary with 45 people, then I can get two of you up to the front to act it out. Because it's not an individual experience, it's a group experience. We've all worked with it, we've all tried it, we've all tried to make it the best we could. And so when you come up to the front, you two, instead of thinking, oh my God, no, you're representing the class. It's a different ball game altogether. Do you dream often? Do you? There you go. What was your dream about last night? Can't remember. What? Yes, what was yours? What was yours about? And then the doctor says, I said the truth. And the boy says, he says, because you see, I'm the boy, I'm in charge, I've got you. That is the truth, and so on and so forth. And the benefits of working with a group, so that the benefits of working with the whole group, so that the individuals and the pairs in it can then make progress, really, really seem to me to work. Let me take you to a class in Beijing, in China. And here's a teacher with a class of 48 students, if my mathematics are correct. 36? Yeah, 48, that's right. And what they are doing is they're studying from a book by a guy called Michael Harris that many of you have met, and it's a book specially adapted for China. They've been talking about how to organize a party and learning the vocabulary for how to organize a party and that kind of thing. And in particular, the task is, it's all about celebrations. Lesson 2, parties. And after they've done some work, a bit like the kind of work I've just done with you, some whole group activities, 48 students, she put them, because as you will see, I was there, she put them in groups of 4 to organize the best party they could. And it said, try and make your party creative, interesting, moving, special. Try to use what we've learned in today's class. And these students, now, admittedly, as you can probably see, they've got quite a few people watching them, so that tends to help the discipline problem a bit. But as you can see from these groups, with the exception of him who wants to know what's going on, and this person who's obviously noticed the camera, but actually, if you look at these students, they're working very productively. And when they'd finished this task, they all read out their parties, and we all had to choose the best one. And it was completely successful. Because if you get groups in big classes working on the right kind of project together, you'll get just as much buy-in. What do I mean? Just as much investment in the task as you would if this was a class of 12 people and you were working in pairs. Because if I put you in groups in the right kind of way and give you a task, well, let me explain what I mean. If you teach a big class, always from the front, and if everything you do is leading from the front, even though, as I've suggested, it's really good to lead from the front and you can have a really good time and students enjoy it and their brains can be active when they're trying to guess the words. But if you do everything from the front, then you'll never let the students off the leash. You never let them, they're always under control. They're always like the lions in the cage of the prison man before. You have to let them off the leash. You have to let them, put them in groups. But the danger of putting people in groups is that if you put students in groups and you're not controlling everything, the group falls apart or gets out of control or something else like that. And you don't want that to happen. So what you do is you design tasks a bit like the stand up and sit down one where you had the words and you were listening to me reading. But this time for groups where participation is mandatory. You have to do it. And for me, the best exemplar of that is what I call the fairy story, the circle writing, the writing circle. Do you know what I'm talking about, the writing circle? You put students in groups of 5. Okay? Each student has a piece of paper and something to write with. You say, right, dictation, which is quite a good way of controlling a class too, but that's another story. Dictation. Write down the following sentence. And you give them a sentence. It doesn't matter what it is, but for sake of the example, well, the example I'm going to give you, the sentence is I can't speak. The sentence is, once upon a time, a beautiful princess lived in a castle by a river. So all the students write down, once upon a time, a beautiful princess lived in a castle by a river. Then you say, write the next sentence. Oh, no, I can't. No, I can't. No, I can't. I don't. Come on, you can write something. No. Listen, you don't have to write anything very impressive. You can write she was tall, she was short, she was fat, she was thin, she was beautiful, she was... Oh, no, we know she's beautiful. She was rich, she was poor. You can write anything you want. Just write something. And in the end, every single student writes the next sentence of the story. Any idea what happens next? What happens next is every single student passes their piece of paper to the person on the left or the right, but preferably all in the same direction. It would help. They pass the piece of paper to the person on the left, and you then say to them, write the next sentence. And this time, they don't protest so much, because it's a bit easier to write the next sentence of a story that isn't your story. So it's not really, you don't have to worry very much. You don't have to feel responsible. You write the next sentence. So now we've got 1, 2, 3 sentences. What happens next? What happens next? You pass the piece of paper to the person on your left. And so now in front of you, you have a piece of paper that's been written by first 2 sentences, and they write the next sentence. It's getting easier. And then what happens next? You pass the piece of paper to the person on your left. Until finally, the piece of paper has gone all the way around until it gets back to the owner, and then you say to the owner, write the conclusion, the final sentence. And you get something like this. Excuse me. Yes, you get something like this. This was a group of my students in Cambridge. I live in Cambridge in Britain. Once upon a time, a beautiful princess lived in a castle by a river. What do I write next? She was very clever. Next student. Oh, she always read and studied. However, because they're trying to think of something to say, it doesn't matter, we're not expecting literature. But, anyway, however, she hasn't seen the gorgeous nature around her. Gorgeous? Anyway, where she was living. She had a stepmother that hated her very much. Next student has absolutely no idea what to write. No ideas or anything else like that. Oh, I'll write anything. She had a lovely dog. It was very loyalty. Yes, it's right. One day, her stepmother bought a basket of red apples from the local market. The stepmother putted poison in apples. Her dog saw what the stepmother do. So when the stepmother gave the apple to her, her dog jumped and ate the apple. Then